Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Well, today we're going to do a quick tip, and I thought it would be a good day to cover some different types of soldering surfaces. And so I thought I'd talk about the different kinds that I've used and the advantages and disadvantages and how I use them. Before we do that, I want to thank some groups of people. The first group I want to thank are my patrons over on Patreon, and I have a new one, Ken T. Thank you for signing up. I appreciate your support. I think that you will find that my Patreon is a nice place with a bunch of cool people over there who are willing to share their ideas and their knowledge. So enjoy becoming part of that community. Thank you also to my previous patrons. I really appreciate the kind of environment you've created over there. So thank you for your support and for that. The other group are my YouTube subscribers, and we just passed 26,200, which is amazing. Thank you for that. I really, truly appreciate the nice comments, and the contributions of your knowledge into my comment section is really helpful, and I appreciate that as well. It's nice to have positive learning conversations in the comments, so thank you for that. Thank you also for your financial support, the Buy Me a Coffees, the Super Thanks, the purchases of my ebooks. Those really help, so thank you for that. Well, that stuff being said, let's get started on this. So this is one of my design idea sketchbooks that you can get on my merch store. This one has some information about different solder flow temperatures, and some of the other ones have different useful information. That, like there's one that has a gauge to inches to millimeters chart on it, which I find pretty useful. So check those out. The real feature that I like the best on them is this dot matrix that's in the background. It helps me to draw better pictures because picture drawing is not really my strength. So the other thing about them is that it's a nice way to keep track of all of your previous projects. I didn't used to do this before I started the channel, but it's nice to have several books full of different things that I've made in the past and how I did it. If I want to try and revisit those or can't remember how I did something, it's a nice way to have a record of it. So get yourself one or two of those. Today I'm going to talk about different soldering surfaces and the ones that I've used. There's a couple that I've never tried before, so I'm not really going to address those ones. In particular, vermiculite pads, I've never used one of those. So if anybody knows much about those, feel free to leave some information in the comment section, because I am not an expert on those ones. I'm not an expert on anything really, but I can show you what I've learned over the years about different things. So I think let's start with a charcoal block, because that's what a lot of people consider to be the most useful and best soldering surface. And I have one here. This particular one is the compressed type. There's actually two different types that you can get that I've seen. One is just the traditional one that's just created like regular charcoal. I don't know how they compress this, but it's really dense compared to those. The other ones are much like you would expect a charred piece of wood to look. The thing about these that are different is these last quite a bit longer, from my experience. I keep one around even though I don't use it as my primary soldering surface, because the way that it reflects heat makes the nicest decorative silver balls. So I melt little bits of silver on here to create little balls, mostly is what I use it for. As far as the way they last, the traditional ones, if you do not wrap them with wire tightly, they will, as soon as you put some heat to them, they'll crack in half. And when I first got one of these compressed ones, I thought that it was going to do the same thing, so I wrapped it with wire, but it never ever broke. I found that the traditional ones break down much quicker than these compressed ones, and since these are resurfaceable in the sense that you can take them out in your driveway and rub them on the concrete and get them nice and flat and smooth again after they get kind of messed up. Both kinds are that way, but the traditional ones wear out much more quickly because you have to keep resurfacing them all the time, and they get thinner and thinner, and at some point they're too thin to use. So you can also just use, if you have like a landscaping brick or something, that's what I do a lot of times. I'll take this outside and rub the surface on there. That's a good way to do it. If you use flux on top of it, that'll break it down more quickly. If you're one who paints on flux very delicately, they'll probably last a lot longer because you won't be getting it on there. I'm a sloppy fluxer. I spray everything down or dribble it on or whatever. So I break them down pretty quickly if I use them for that purpose. Alright, number 2 is the one I use most of the time, and it's a Solderite pad. And these are actually made out of calcium silicate. Well, I've seen them in 2 different thicknesses, like this thick, which is about, no, it's a half an inch. And I think they have 3/4 of an inch or an inch thick ones as well. And they have soft and hard ones. Now, I've never noticed much of a difference between the soft and hard ones, honestly, that I can remember. They're all relatively hard, and they're not really good to push things into, like pins or anything. They're a little bit too rigid and stiff for doing that without destroying them pretty quickly. They are good, though, for soldering on. I've been using these for years, and I have good soldering success on them. They start off nice and flat. Over time, they're going to start getting crusty looking like this, and cracking. And most of this is because dribbling flux or spraying flux on it, that breaks it down much more quickly. So if you don't do it that way, if you paint on, which a lot of people do, I think your pad will last a lot longer, probably. But these ones are also resurfaceable. You can take these and scrape them on something. Or I used to, for these ones, I would put them on my belt sander and just run it on there for a little bit, and it'll take the surface back down to a nice flat white surface again. They're a little bit powdery when you first get them, so wear a mask when you're unpacking them maybe so you don't breathe that stuff in. I don't imagine breathing in calcium silicate's probably very good for your lungs. I was introduced to this type of surface by Flying Chef, one of the people who comments on my YouTube channel all the time, who has really good information. She sent me one of these, and these are cool tools, fibrous kiln blocks, I think is what they're called, and they're made out of ceramic fibers, all kind of bonded together. I think you're supposed to heat them up to about 1,000 degrees for about a minute to kind of burn out the binders that hold it together the first time, and then let it cool off, and then it's ready to use. These are a softer surface, so you can poke things into it like that if you need to, and that's handy sometimes, you know, or if you're doing prongs or something, you want to poke the wires into there, that works. One thing about this, though, if you try and push something big in, like a bezel, the fibers, I think, go back and forth a long ways, so you're pushing them down, they're going to spring back a little bit in this type of a block. So if you're trying to get things to lay perfectly flat on there and you're pushing something significant into it, it's going to spring back a bit. And overall, a very useful block, works great, smells a little weird when you first heat it up to that initial temperature, but that goes away. And then it's a great soft surface for doing stuff. I don't think these are too resurfaceable. The one that Flying Chef gave me, I used quite a bit. I got some flux on it, you know, pulling things in and out of it. It broke it down over time, and pretty soon it was pretty crumbly and falling apart. So I don't think I could have resurfaced that one very well. So next one is a Magnesia block, okay, and this one's been used a little bit. When they start, they look like the edges here. I have a brand new one that I haven't taken out of the package yet. These ones are magnesium oxide, but they're more powdery than fibrous, and so they have disadvantages and advantages. One, they are good for pushing stuff into. It goes in and stays where you put it, which is nice. However, as you can see, when you pull things out, it usually pulls a piece of the pad away, and it'll break it down pretty quickly. So I go through these ones pretty fast, but a very useful surface for me. I use these all the time when I need to keep something positioned in a particular way and I can't figure out a way to do it. So disadvantage, it's a great insulator. So if you're pushing parts of your piece into this pad, you're preventing them from getting easily heated up, because the only parts of the metal that are exposed are the parts that are above it, and this stuff insulates really well. So with silver requiring you to heat the entire piece really to get it to solder very well, that inhibits that, and that's kind of a problem sometimes. So you got to keep that in mind when you're using it. Resurfaceable for a while, so sort of resurfaceable. Like I could take this out to the driveway and get it nice and flat if I wanted to, and it would be a little bit thinner, but it would look nice for a bit, which I may do later. Finally, I was introduced to these by Pepe Tools, who sent me a few when I became an affiliate, and this one is broken apart, as is one of the things that happens to them relatively quickly. However, I have some good things to say about these two. I really like the nice flat porous surface like this, and it's a shame that they do break apart, but there's a lot of times where I need the surface to be really flat. And one of the problems with most of these surfaces is if you dribble or spray flux on something, it's going to get gummed up over time pretty quickly. And one of the things that these little holes do, I think they positively affect the way things are heated on here as well, but it dribbles away any excess flux. They really stay uncorrupted by flux for a long time. And honestly, somebody told me, you can just wire those back together. And I used a little bit of wire to just kind of put these pieces back together that I had. Advantages: great flat surface, flux dribbles away excess flux. Disadvantages: they break apart after a while, so you have to replace them. If I had a choice between a Solderite pad and one of these, I would probably use one of these, but I probably would set it on top of a Solderite pad to protect the table underneath it anyway. So, but it's a close call on that. I like both of them. Oh, there's one I didn't mention that I don't have with me, but I have used once or twice. It's the little tripods made out of metal with a screen on top, and those are useful for getting below the piece you're working on in order to heat it from all directions. I had one and I gave it away to someone who wanted it. I've never missed it really, so. I'm curious to hear your experiences or what kind of surfaces you use if it's different from what I use, and other things that you know about these things, because I like learning. So tell me what you know about stuff in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Alright, well that was a few tips about using different types of soldering pads, their advantages and disadvantages. If you found that useful, please hit the like button before you go, and I'd love it if you'd visit my main channel page. I have lots and lots of content over there. I started this channel about 4 years ago and I do 3 videos per week, so there's quite a few videos to peruse over there, and I would love it if you did so. So once you do, make sure to subscribe to my channel. There's no cost to that, and you can also hit the bell button if you want to get notifications of when I put out videos, but it's generally on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so make sure to subscribe. The other thing is visit the video description down below. There's some important links there. There's a link to my Patreon if you want to find out more about that nice community over there. There's multiple tiers of membership with different perks, the lowest one being just getting rid of the YouTube advertisements. The other one's having some live streams and Patreon exclusive videos, so check it out. It's a nice community. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself one of those nice design idea sketchbooks I showed you at the beginning. Those are super handy for keeping track of your projects. I really find that to be a valuable part of what I do now, so I keep those designs for future reference. So get yourself one. There's a link to my newest ebook, which is a guide to all of the videos in 2025, and there's a page for each of the videos in the book. It has a picture of the original drawing I did. It has a final product picture. It has a list of materials that it takes to make the project. If there's a stone in it, it has some stone information. It has a difficulty rating, and it has some notes that I took about the project. Some things that I might not have mentioned in the video, or things I might have done differently if I was to do it again. What I might have learned from the project, because quite often I learn something new when I try to do something different. So it's also, and it's also got a link right to the video. So it's a nice way to have a whole bunch of projects right at your fingertips, and a super nice way to support my channel. So thanks in advance if you do that. Alright, well thanks for watching today. Take care. Happy silversmithing.